attention, if you could please take your seats. We're missing one candidate. There's Torrey Powers. Please come on up. I'd like to welcome you back to session 2, where we will hear from candidates for the City of Poway Mayor's position and the City Council at Large position. Again, my name is Burdette. I'm your MC for the night. We have candidates that are representing our community and currently, and excited to be representing our community in the future. We have a handful of program questions. The candidates have not seen these questions. I'll be reading them to them. They have the sequence that they will be responding. It is in front of them. We don't have enough microphones for all of the table, and so they will be sharing the microphone. Again, their time is limited to 60 seconds. We would love to hear more information from each of the candidates, particularly the ones that you're excited about. However, the time constraints dictate otherwise. I do want to let you know that we'll have a 5-minute session break after this session before we bring up the next team of candidates. And during that time, I encourage you to ask questions to your candidates off the stage. And I'm pretty sure I covered all of that stuff. So, question 1, and the sequence is in front of you, and to save time, I ask that the candidates please do your best to follow that sequence, and if you know that you'll need to pass the microphone either to the right or the left, please do your best to do that. The sequence will change after each question. Here's question 1 for all candidates. Opening statements. It's even better than questions, isn't it? Yes. We're going to start with opening questions or opening statements. Each candidate has presented a 60-second opening statement or an introduction for themselves. And Yuri, we'll start with you.
Good evening. My name is Yuri Bohlen. I'm a candidate for mayor. The city and the country. I believe we need change so that we can save the country in our city. If elected mayor, I will only serve 2 terms at the most. I believe in term limits. I will also never appoint anyone to the city council. There will only be elected officials by the people and for the people. There are plenty of unoccupied open spaces on Poway Road alone. Why do we need to destroy existing businesses to put new businesses when there are plenty of open spaces available? Thank you.
The mic is yours.
Hi, I'm Brian Edmonston. Our current mayor thinks Poway is done getting better. His position is that Poway does not need any new parks or other amenities. Even along Poway Road, where over 1,000 new dwellings are being planned. My position is that we're not done improving, and we can't just sit on what we have while other newer communities continue to improve and get better. Also, we're being told that we have to overdevelop the Poway Road corridor in order to pay for pension benefits. Leaving aside the fact that the current city council should have seen this pension bubble coming, I think pushing for this level of new development is an imprudent solution to a budget problem. And we should and can manage this pension bubble in other ways. If this proves difficult, however, my priorities will be always the preservation of Poway's special character over the general staffing needs of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Johnson, the mic is yours.
Hello, my name is Emily Johnson. I was raised in Poway and went to school here. When I was a senior in high school, I was told that if I wanted to see change in Poway, I should run for office. Poway has lost sight of our country charm. In South Poway, Poway Road is constantly under construction and local businesses are losing their storefronts and our community has suffered. As construction continues, we lose sight of those who struggle. Our growing homeless population, some of who were my classmates at Poway High, go ignored. People in the LGBT community have been verbally and physically attacked with no repercussions. I understand that politicians often throw around these buzzwords with little force behind them, but for me, these are my friends in my community. As a member of the LGBT community, I want to see people like me represented. I want to see all people represented. My name is Emily Johnson, and I hope you will consider me as your mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Steve Vaus, the mic is yours.
Thank you. I want to get a few facts out on the table. Poway's the safest city in the county. It's been that way for a while. First 6 months of 2018, our crime rate dropped further. We're the best, and we're getting better. We were recently ranked as #1 to raise a family. We've got the best roads. We've got more open space than any other city as a percentage of our land mass. And we've increased that in the last 12 months by over 100 acres. We're the best, and we're getting better. We're in the midst of revitalizing Poway Road. Urge Gastropub, food hall is coming. Underground parking, 350 spaces. We put Poway on the map last year with the Tony Gwynn Memorial. All that while we've delivered balanced budgets, maintained emergency reserves, protected private property rights, and being the most accessible and available council you'll find anywhere. I'm proud to lead the team. I look forward to 4 more years of getting things done, making sure that Poway remains the best and keeps getting better.
Thank you. Our first 4 candidates are candidates for the office of mayor. Our next 3 candidates are candidates for the city council at large. Torrey Powers, the mic is yours.
Hi, I am Torrey Powers. I am running for Poway City Council at large. As a proud 4th-generation Powayian, I am committed to preserving and enhancing our unique quality of life. Currently, I am serving on the board of the Poway Historical Society. I am also a shelter volunteer with the City of Poway and the Safety Services, as well as a vice chair on the Budget Review Committee for 2017 and 2018. My twin boys are currently freshmen at Poway High. One is going through the Prominent Engineering Program, and the other one is going through the also Prominent Agricultural Program. As for myself, I work at the amazing business park with a local business called Evolution Controls as a customer relations specialist.
Thank you. Caylin Frank, the mic is yours.
Thank you. To share a little about myself, I'm the daughter of 2 cops, and that taught me the importance of public service and giving back to your community. That upbringing directly influenced my career path, which started in the U.S. House of Representatives and led to my current position as the Senior Policy Advisor to a County Supervisor. It's also why I'm running for City Council. I've spent over a decade working in public policy and local government, meaning I understand the process. I understand what it takes to get things done. I've also learned the importance of relationships in getting these things done. You can't do it alone. I've worked hard to cultivate relationships locally and regionally, and these relationships will help me be a better advocate for Poway. I also bring a new perspective as a woman with a young family living in South Poway. I have a 9-month-old daughter, and as her mom, I'm deeply invested in the community she will grow up in. I want to make sure that decades from now, she will have the same great opportunities that we enjoy now as residents of Poway.
Thank you. Tony Russo, the mic is yours.
Hi everybody, my name is Tony Russo. Most of you guys know me from owning a restaurant, a couple of restaurants, O'Harley's Brewhouse Pizzeria and O'Harley's Sports Bar and Grill. Resident in Poway for 40 years, so I've seen Poway grow from nothing to where we are today. But we got to continue to grow, and like Mayor Vaus mentioned, we have to bring sustainable growth into Poway so we can sustain the businesses that we have. If we don't continue to sit there and do that, what's going to happen is that the people that are coming in won't be able to sustain the businesses that are available. And then you're going to end up having businesses that are going to be empty. So my #1 priority is that we have to sit there and talk, communicate, and make sure that we do this slowly but surely and not overdo it all at once and end up having a problem rather than a good thing.
Thank you very much. On to question 1 for all candidates. The Green Valley Civic Association recently surveyed North Poway residents on a number of issues, including housing needs. What type and/or density of housing do you think is needed in the community? The order of responses are provided for you. Brian Edmonston, the mic is yours.
Well, I think the type of housing that we have right now in North Poway is very nice, and I think that most people would like to keep that quality and type of housing. So I would support additional development, but it needs to be in line with what we have here already, so that we can keep the character of this community.
Thank you. Emily Johnson, the mic is yours.
I think that there is a need for more low-income housing in Poway. We have a lot of people who have lived here for generations who are being pushed out by increased cost of living. So I believe that I don't think we need to change the density of housing in Poway, but I do think we need to work on the cost of living here. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Vaus, the mic is yours.
We need a variety of new housing in Poway. We need what I would call attainable housing, so that folks who are working up in the business park, starting engineers, and positions like that can have a place to work or to live close to work that they can afford when they're starting. We also need affordable housing. We have 692 units throughout the city. We used to be able to build award-winning affordable housing units, but Governor Brown dismantled the redevelopment agency and raided our piggy bank. So we can't do it anymore. We've got an exciting project coming now for challenged adults called Villa de Vida, down on the corner of Oak Knoll and Pomerano Road. We don't have a whole lot of money, but we've got some nice land we can give them. We're going to loan them some money, and I've been twisting arms with the Board of Supervisors to try and get some funding. So what we need in terms of housing crosses the spectrum.
Thank you. Yuri Bohlen, the mic is yours.
First, what is the definition of affordable housing? Is it something that is mandated by state based on occupants of household? Or is it based on an individual or corporation that raises the rent every January 1st? That is the question that should be answered first and foremost when we have affordable housing. Second, I would like to bring up another point about affordable housing, veterans housing. It has been brought up in the past many times, but has always been shot down, and I just wonder why. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And on for our candidates at large. Caylin Frank, the mic is yours.
Thank you. I would agree that we need a variety. We need not only affordable housing, which is absolutely serving our most in need populations, but we need attainable housing. I'm a young family, my husband and I, we want to be homeowners, but to have the housing in place that allows us to do that is really important. We also have people that are empty nesters that want to downsize, but they don't want to leave Poway. Where are they going to go? So we need a variety of housing that meets a variety of needs. I think that we are moving towards that with some of the stuff that's going on at the city, and I think that it's crucial that we talk about not only affordable, but attainable.
Thank you. Tony Russo, the mic is yours.
I have to agree. Okay, I mean, that's number one thing is that we have to have houses that we're able to afford. I've got 3 kids, a family. If I didn't have the opportunity to have my in-laws help me out by putting a down payment on the house, I probably would have been able to do so. Most of the homes in Poway are, you guys know it, they're very expensive. We need to be able to bring in affordable housing for people to come in so they can work. We're talking about building stuff on Poway Road. People aren't going to come down and work in Poway if they have to spend $100 in gas every 2 weeks, and then it's not worth coming into Poway to work if they can't find a place to live in Poway. So not only do we need affordable housing, I also believe in retirement community, the 55 and up. They're the ones that made Poway, Rancho Bernardo. They're the ones that need help also down the line.
Thank you very much. Torrey Powers, the mic is yours.
I'm also going to address the density part. Poway has a unique proposition, Prop FF, and we need to protect it at all costs. For example, Stone Ridge. There is a great opportunity to have, I think, 120 plus homes and an agricultural development. But at the same time, why don't we have a second measure where if down the road they want to add another 100, we have a trigger of another Prop FF. So if they require more housing or a second phase, they would have to ask our permission for anything above the 120. That way the citizens are still controlling the amount of density, how much, where, and when. This is also something that the citizens utilized to stop the development or potential development of Matati. We organized and we were able to keep a developer from getting enough signatures to put it on the ballot.
Thank you very much. On to question 2 for all candidates. The city continues to face empty retail space and turnover of restaurants and other businesses. What specific experience and ideas do you have that can help the city attract and, more importantly, retain retail businesses in Poway? Our mayoral candidates first. Emily Johnson, the mic is yours.
I think one of the steps that could be made to keeping businesses in Poway would be to spend a little bit of money towards beautifying our storefronts. A lot of people don't want to go into the businesses along Poway Road because they're not nice to look at, essentially. And if we could spend a little extra time, a little extra money on, instead of tearing all these buildings down and building up new ones, instead beautifying what we have, like what was done at the Sprout Shopping Center on Poway Road, we could attract more business into these stores, and then businesses wouldn't feel the need to leave.
Thank you. Steve Vaus, the mic is yours.
I saw a quote on Facebook the other day. The best way to predict the future is to create the future. It's a quote from Abraham Lincoln. That's exactly what we're doing on Poway Road. Anybody that drives that stretch right now can't be satisfied with the way it looks. Prior councils have talked about creating a town center. This council has done it. We did a 2-year Poway Road corridor study, a committee of volunteers working to reimagine and revitalize the area from community to carriage. Significantly, we reduced the number of houses zoned in that area from 2,000 down to 1,200, a 30% roughly reduction. They provided a blueprint for how the council can make final decisions. It's going to be a highly walkable area with new places to live, work, and play. We're in debt to those community volunteers that spent all that time coming up with a blueprint. In just a few weeks, the Outpost with the Urge Gastropub Food Hall is going to be breaking ground, and much more, because they're going to be a catalyst for Poway to finally have a real downtown.
Thank you. Yuri Bohlen, the mic is yours.
Unoccupied space on Poway Road. If elected mayor, I'm going to find out who owns all these unoccupied spaces and find out if they want to sell it or rent it at a fair rate so we can have businesses on Poway Road instead of destroying current ones to make it look like downtown San Diego and the Gaslamp Quarter. As Mayor Vaus expressed, the Outpost with a food court and winery, underground parking garage, I believe that's Horton Plaza. I don't believe the residents of Poway want Horton Plaza on Poway Road. As far as restoration is concerned with the existing businesses, the Carriage Center Mall, which is my passion, I've been going to the thrift shops for the last 27 years. And yes, they could use some restoration, a nice coat of paint, but don't destroy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Edmonston, the mic is yours.
The secret to making these stores successful is to make that area, Poway Road corridor, a place that people want to go and live. And yes, you need to put in some units, but you need to put in the other amenities that go along with building any type of community. And I've looked at the Poway Road specific plan, and there are no amenities set aside or planned for in that plan. So all you're going to get is a bunch of condos and maybe a little bit of retail space and restaurants, and that's not going to be a place that people want to go. I've suggested using city-owned land to increase the size of Poway Community Park so that these new residents living in these condos and apartments will have a place to go. Currently, the Poway Community Park is too small already. Throw in another 1,000 units with 3,000 people, and it's going to seem tiny.
Thank you. Now from our candidates at large, Tony Russo, the mic is yours.
The growth on Poway Road is a necessity. It's a necessity in a sustainable way. We mentioned before about bringing homes into Poway and having people live. But we have to do it together. We have to do it slowly but surely. If we go and build all these businesses and they have all the concessions that all the landlords give them, in the end, once the concessions are done, these businesses are going to go out of business because there's no people there to sit there and sustain them. I think in my opinion, if we can sit there and slowly but surely bring the people to Poway, because a lot of people want to move to Poway, but they have to be able to sit there and have some kind of affordable living and areas where they can sit and have a family.
Thank you. Torrey Powers, the mic is yours.
Very much of what everyone is saying up here is 100% correct. It does take all of it. It's our schools that's going to bring them in. It's our safety that's going to bring them in. Because you have to have the people that want to be here, to live here, to shop here, to live and play and have fun. But on top of that, Poway was built, like Poway Road was a hodgepodge. There was no connection or synergy. In 2016, Amy Romaker pretty much alerted us that we needed an economic committee to evaluate, plan, and recommend a way forward that was cohesive and well thought out. I believe she was right, and I think we need to put one of those together as well. There's tax incentives that we can do to lure maybe some biotech up in the business park, and as well as retaining, we could start partnering up with the chamber a little bit more. Maybe link up some of the spa and day restaurants where you have a mom or father's day crawl. So you get your nails done at this spa, you get your toes done at this spa, you get a massage done at that spa. So you're connecting all the small businesses together. Sorry, my time's up.
Thank you very much. Caylin Frank, the mic is yours.
The root of this question is the reason why we need the Poway Road specific plan. I want to see a town center. We want to see, when you drive down Poway Road, you should be able to understand what Poway is about. And we don't have that right now. It doesn't reflect the character of our city. It doesn't drive people there. It's a pass-through. So I want to make it a destination. That's what I think is really crucial to bringing people that live in Poway to keep them in Poway. I know my husband and I, when we have date night, a lot of times, where do you go? A lot of people end up leaving Poway. I would love to live and play in Poway, and I think that's a key element of that. What's great about the Poway Road Civic Plan is it's still a community process. It was a lengthy community process to get there, and every project will still be a community process. We can still have that input and discuss what it is that we want there, and I think that's a really key aspect of this vision.
Thank you very much. And that concludes that question. Before we go on to question 3, I want to remind the audience that you have an opportunity to provide a question, that we might have time for 2 or 3 questions from the audience. If you've written a question down, raise it up in your hand and someone will come by and pick it up at this time. If you need a piece of paper to write on something, they are located at the front desk in the back or at the front counter as you walk in the door. On to question 3 for all candidates. There have been a number of significant issues with budgets, deadlines, and quality of work and management of major projects in Poway recently, from the new pedestrian path on Espola Road to the Poway Swim Center. How should council address accountability, and what best practices would you recommend to avoid problems in the future? From our mayoral candidates, Steve Vaus, the mic is yours.
Well, let's get down to brass tacks on this. We had some problems with the pool project. A contractor dropped the ball. They failed to deliver the specs that they agreed to in the first place. That caused a long delay. It's unfortunate, but more important, we need to get the job done right. When it reopens, it's going to be great. Splash pad, new locker rooms. We had a good pool before, but we're going to have a better pool now. See, you have to remember that the state requires us to take the lowest responsible bidder. It's not always the best choice. And we found that out with the pool. On Espola Road, just to explain, what we're doing is building a safety trail and undergrounding utilities. Anyone that tells you that there's a cost overrun doesn't know what they were talking about. Our original bid came in about $1 million less than we expected it to. Turned out they left out several hundred yards of wall. We're still under budget, having paid that $800,000 for that wall. It's going to get done. The employee that scheduled that is no longer with the city.
Thank you very much. Yuri Bohlen, the mic is yours.
Speaking of cost overruns, if the senior center is to be shut down for their proposal of 18 months, I believe it's going to be closer to about 20 to 24 months. Look at the pool, for example. I believe this was one of the hottest summers on record. It's almost like baseball not having opening day at home, not until after the All-Star break. Speaking of the two proposals of the Mikikafanya Center, one is, I believe, 13 million something, the other 11 million. I would scrap both ideas and restore and upgrade the current senior center so that none of the seniors will be inconvenienced more than a couple of weeks maximum. Because if we prevent them from enjoying this center, some of them, unfortunately, might not be around when the new one is built. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Edmonston, the mic is yours.
Well, we need to get a city manager who can create contracts that will bind these companies to perform as they've indicated they can. And if the city manager can't do that, we need a new city manager. I also agree with Yuri that the Confining Center needs to be reviewed, and the option of restoring it and remodeling it instead of tearing it down needs to be explored. This is a huge budget expense that's distorting the city budget in all sorts of other ways and preventing us from spending money in all sorts of other ways that would benefit Poway, and it needs to be reevaluated.
Thank you. Emily Johnson, the mic is yours.
I agree with Brian that there needs to be a better contracting system in place when we do big projects like this. We can't allow contractors to drop out in the middle of it for no good reason. And that does come down to an issue within the contract. I also think that there needs to be more accountability within the council. People need to own up to their mistakes, and when these things happen, the city needs to know right away, not midway through the summer when we don't have a pool, or 2 weeks into school when there's traffic backed up for hours. I think there needs to be better transparency when these contracts are being made so that the city has an idea of what is being done to the place they call home. And I think that this can be done by just having more opportunity for taxpayers to be involved.
Thank you. And from our candidates at large, Torrey Powers, the mic is yours.
When approaching any kind of plan or development, we need to set the expectation, and it needs to be held accountable. So there's the trust but verify. So when the expectations are set, if the error is by the contractor, then the responsibility needs to be on the contractor. If the error is by the city staff, it will be identified, and whoever is responsible will be performance managed. There will be a verbal, a written, and then termination. Everyone needs to be accountable for what they are serving, and we are, as taxpayers, need to deserve the responsibility. I just totally messed that up. I am so sorry. But as taxpayers, we deserve the right to hold these people accountable so that we're not subsidizing things that were someone else's fault. If the problem is with leadership or the manager or directors, the same performance management needs to happen with them.
Caylin Frank, the mic is yours.
Thank you. I can't disagree with the need for accountability and the need to be responsive to the taxpayers. I actually heard an idea by another council member that for large projects like these, we have an independent oversight committee that is made up of taxpayers, of stakeholders in these projects, to help hold staff accountable, to help hold our contractors accountable, and to report back to council, because we need to know what's going on. We need to hear back from really the people that are truly invested in it, which is the taxpayers.
Thank you. Tony Russo, the mic is yours.
Bottom line, we put our trust in the city council to make a decision to do things for the city. What they did at the pool was a travesty. I took a video, and the pool looks great. Everything else, I don't know. I mean, that's up to you guys when you guys go down there. But for close to $2 million, we could probably build 2 pools. Mistakes happen, but you know, I've had friends that are in construction that if they don't sit there and meet a deadline, they have to sit there and start paying back money to the people that they have a contract with. So if the city can't sit there and have that clause in there, then maybe they need to put a mandatory bond that when they come in and do a contract with the city, 500,000, whatever it may be, that way we don't get into that position that we were.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
On to question 4 for all candidates. According to the city's 2018-19 budget, total revenues are projected to be $48.5 million, while expenditures are projected at $48.1 million. That's a tight margin. Historically, public safety costs for fire and safety comprise over 50% of the budget, and have continued to increase at a higher rate than the revenues. Here is your question. As we face a potential structural deficit problem in the future, what would be your approach to meeting public safety needs in a fiscally responsible manner while balancing public benefit? From our mayoral candidates, Yuri Bohlen, the mic is yours.
Yes, fiscal responsibility, that is the key word. Number one, I would save at least 11 million or 13 million on the Mickey Cafagna Center, and minus costs for the actual upgrades of the existing center. I'll just say flat 10 million just to make the math easy. Well, I would use some of that money for fire protection to make sure that we never have another fire season like 2003 or 2007. I'll use the old adage of King Stallman's bail bonds. It's better to know me and not need me than to need me and not know me. Meaning I would rather have a few fire trucks and a few extra firemen sitting around playing poker, but be there if, God forbid, the big fire happens. They would protect and serve the community of Poway and save lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian Edmonston. The mic is yours.
Well, our safety professionals are untouchable. We need to preserve the staffing and capabilities that we have at any cost. So that leaves the general staff. And I've gone through the pay and positions that are in the general staff, and it just seems to be running a little thick to me. You have a city manager, assistant city manager, all very well paid. You have I don't know, an economic development person that I don't really understand how much their revenue they're bringing in for the large salary they have. There's I guess a city services person that they just hired and an assistant city services person. These salaries are very big. Look them up with benefits. They may shock you. I think we can cut a little bit of that out and make some room for spending money on the city and the residents.
Thank you. Emily Johnson, the mic is yours.
If the cost of public safety is going to continue going up, which statistically it has been, I believe that we should be putting our sheriff department at more use. We should have them at more stop signs because people tend to run stop signs in Poway. We should have them at more red lights because driving down Poway Road, you will see somebody run a red light. And so if we're going to be approaching the cost of safety, then we should be utilizing the people who we're paying. On the note of salaries, I think Brian is right that the salaries of city managers and their staff can afford to be reduced. People are being paid a lot more than the jobs that they're being doing in the hours that they're serving. And people are being paid a lot less for a lot more work in other fields.
Thank you. Steve Vaus, the mic is yours.
I disagree with the fundamental premise of the question. We don't touch safety services. We're number one for a reason. People move to Poway for public safety. That's the first thing. Rather, I think we need to grow revenues to keep pace with increasing costs. Last 3 years, revenues are up $2 million. We created a business subcommittee, myself and Councilmember Barry Leonard. We go out and visit local businesses along with our economic development director. We make sure that we know their needs and concerns. In the last 4 years, I've met one-on-one with prospective businesses many, many times. Folks like the Outpost developers is breaking ground in a few weeks. A project like that is going to be a huge shot in the arm to Poway's economy. Can't overlook the chamber events that the council attends as well, the grand openings, the ribbon cuttings. It all helps lift the economy, give people a reason to come to Poway, and I think the reason's pretty strong.
Thank you. From our candidates at large, Caylin Frank, the mic is yours.
I think the mayor is stealing my notes. Public safety is untouchable. That's a huge passion for me because I think that's why a lot of people moved here and that's why I moved here. It's the safest city in the county and there's a reason for that. That doesn't happen by accident, it happens by council prioritizing that. So to me, I look at not what we can cut, but how we can grow. And that's where the Poway Road Specific Plan comes in, that's where working with the chamber comes in, that's where being an advocate for our small businesses, being an advocate for our local economy, that's where we're gonna see our budget be sustainable into the future. It's not gonna be by continuing to cut things, it's gonna be by continuing to encourage businesses to thrive here.
Thank you. Tony Russo, the mic is yours.
Obviously, we've got a very safe city, but the more people that we bring in, the more problems may occur. And I'm not saying they will, but there's a probability of that happening. Mr. Vaus mentioned the gastropub coming in. You start bringing bars, I've owned bars, so I know what happens in bars. You start bringing bars and restaurants and stuff like that, you're gonna need more safety, you're gonna need more officers, you're gonna need more security. If you're going to go all the way down Poway Road and start building businesses on that, you know, there's going to be a need of police officers making sure that no one's doing anything inappropriate. So public safety, yeah, we've got one of the best. A lot of cities want to sit there and emulate us, but we also have to sit there and continue to make sure that we're on that standard and continue to sit there and grow when we're growing.
Thank you very much. Torrey Powers, the mic is yours.
It's a little bit of everything. We do need to keep funding our safety and our infrastructure and keep maintaining what is the foundation of Poway. We do have a hefty reserve, which is 45%. So we do have a little bit of cushion there that we can spread a little bit. The 2008, when we had the big housing burst, we did go after staff. So you can look into staff and salaries and start there. Outsourcing some of our jobs, so engineering or some of the traffic studies, that is actually very helpful, outsourcing so they don't become pension employees. And pension, that's why we are where we are. Unfortunately, this is a promise we made and a promise we need to keep. So the city just actually put our money into a trust, which we will have more control over, and it is a much more sustainable than putting it in the stock market like it was
Thank
before.
you very much. We actually have time for as many as 3 questions, and the response from the mayoral candidates and then the candidates at large will be the same for all questions that's on your chart in front of you. That will be the same sequence of response for all 3 questions. Here's the first question from the audience for all candidates. How will you support continued services to Poway's senior citizens during the remodel/construction term for the Recreation Center? Brian Edmonston, the mic is yours.
Yeah, it's a difficult question. One way is to just do a remodel and hopefully make the time, the duration of that shorter. But even for that duration, you've got to find another facility. And you may have to rent something, or you may have to find someone who's willing to give the space up for, you know, as kind of like a charitable thing. But you've got a big problem there. And certainly, if you tear the building down and build it back up, that's another expense. And some people, you know, these people are very old, and some people may not live to see the finished product. If they tear it down and rebuild it, and that would be a shame in my opinion.
Thank you. Emily Johnson, the mic is yours.
During the remodel, we will be displacing a lot of people who regularly attend the senior center, and I think the best option would be instead to look for those who will donate their space. Schools have a lot of spaces in NPRs like this one, and I'm sure there's other people who own land who will be willing to give it up in order to allow our senior citizens to have a space to be. Because it does get harder as you get older to find people to support you, and it's important that our city continues to support members of this community regardless of age.
Thank you. Steve Vaus, the mic is yours.
I think it's a little bit of putting the cart before the horse. We've got to decide what we're going to do with the senior center before we try and figure out what we're going to do, if anything, for the seniors in the meantime. But I want to express appreciation for Councilmember John Mullen and Councilmember Dave Grush, who've been working closely with Cynthia Elizondo and others at the Senior Center, trying to look for options, talking to St. Gabriel's Church, exploring the possibility of maybe some modular units on some city-owned land. Everything should be on the table. The city might need to step up and pay for some of it, but also the Senior Center may need to look at their endowment and touching that for this emergency purpose.
Thank you. Yuri Bohlen, the mic is yours.
If elected mayor of Poway, the seniors will only be inconvenienced about 2 weeks because paint dries pretty fast. Also, for the record, this proposition, the Mickey Cafagna Center, has been on the books for about 10 years. I think another 10 to 20 years might be appropriate. What do you think? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Torrey Powers. Excuse me.
That's okay.
Tony Russo, the mic is yours.
Yuri, you're funny, buddy. I agree with Mr. Vaus. Before we actually make a decision, we have to find out what's going on. If it was me and we had the money, I wouldn't do a remodel. I'd completely knock it down and get it done. It's quicker, it's faster. You're not trying to add new pieces to old pieces, because when you start doing that, the old pieces start breaking down, and then you have to go back and fix it with new pieces again, and it's just a constant circle. So, in the end, if we had the money, and I think we have some money set aside, I would build a new senior center for them. I think the seniors are the ones that made our town. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. Very simple.
Thank you. Torrey Powers, the mic is yours.
I attended the community center forum, and it's heartbreaking. You could hear Lindsay's voice cracking, talking about the displacement. But the benefit of the city, they've given a lot of notice. We actually have a lot of time to really try and figure this out. And that is a huge, huge point to make. The current plans that we have, which we haven't even decided on, will be too small for what we currently use right now, let alone the projected growth on Poway Road, which will be right next door. So we need more square footage, or maybe the senior center has their own space. But we definitely, as a community, I'm in the business park, and they rallied looking for 8,000 square feet, and so they're searching and looking, and like Moss said, the churches as well. So we do need to find an answer.
Thank you. For question 2, excuse me, Caylin Frank.
Well, I don't think that I have anything new to add to that as far as what we need to do, which is definitely ensure that our seniors have a home at the end of whatever process we take with the community center. There is a lot still undecided. There are a lot of conversations going on. I think it's critical that the senior center and the city are working together. I appreciate that they are, and that I have colleagues on the council that are regularly meeting with them to find a place for them. I think that both sides are probably going to have to give a little. The transition may not look exactly like what we have right now, but it'll be better than nothing. And I just think it's really critical that the silver tsunami is coming. The senior center will only become more and more valuable to our community, so we need to definitely prioritize that.
Thank you very much. I think I'm having senior moments up here following the program. I don't need a memory center. I need an ADHD center. For question number 2, the same sequence of responses for all candidates. We all talk about affordable housing and an affordable workforce, but where is it to go? North Poway, for the most part, would require a zone change. South Poway doesn't want any more. So where is it to go? And I believe that I read that correctly. Thank you. Brian Edmondson, the mic is yours.
Yeah, it's another difficult question. The Poway Road specific plan has some good things. There needs to be some units developed there. It's just a question of how many. And right now, I mean, the number 11,048 seems just a little high to me. I think maybe we could get that down to half that amount and still provide lots of good places for people to live. Also, the mix could be adjusted. I know a lot of people want studios and 1 bedrooms for old people and young people to live, but I think a lot of 3 bedrooms could make those actual homes where you could raise a family. So I would like to consider increasing or encouraging them to put in more 3-bedroom units that actually some people could elect to live in for a long time with their children. I lived in an apartment in Europe for 2 years and it was a pleasure. So it can be done.
Thank you. Emily Johnson, the mic is yours.
To create more affordable housing and have everyone be happy, it would require a little bit of compromise from members of the community. And I don't feel like me as one person, I could answer that. I think that it would come down to a lot of community forum, a lot of community conversation, and eventually there would come to a compromise, but I don't think it's my position as potential mayor to make that decision for the people who are living in Poway.
Thank you. Steve Vaus, the mic is yours.
I think the more fundamental question still has to be, how are you going to pay for it? You know, the governor took away the funds that we use to build affordable housing. So we can plan for affordable housing all we want. We can talk about north, south, east, west. It doesn't matter until and unless we have something similar to redevelopment monies back again. Again, I'll mention Villa de Vida. They've got an incredible project that we're working with them to build down in Pomerado and Oak Knoll. But to get the money to bring that to fruition has been a Herculean task. We're bending over backwards, we're making a loan, we're giving them the land, but we need to find a funding mechanism for affordable housing before we start to worry about where it's going to be.
Thank you. Yuri Bohlen, the mic is yours.
Poway Road, if the current plan goes through, Poway Road might as well change its name to Friars Road or Claremont Mesa Boulevard. Either way, it's going to be a nightmare. Speaking of the housing, affordable housing, yes, people need to live somewhere, but not 1,148 units. No, that's too much. Moderation is the key, number one. And second of all, why? Why destroy the city in the country? It's just not right. Thank you.
Thank you. From our candidates at large, Tony Russo, the mic is yours.
You know, you're not destroying the city and the country if you do it right. It's a beautiful city. We've grown, I mean, I've been here since 1978. We've grown tremendously and the city's not ruined. We've had our problems. I think the infrastructure of the roads need to be addressed, so the traffic getting in and out of Poway will be easier. But again, that's part of the planning and zoning commission and the council and the mayor. But you gotta grow. I mean, you can't sit there and just forget about everything and say, hey, you know what, we're gonna stay stagnant and then everybody's gonna die off, and what are we gonna have? A ghost town.
Thank you very much. Torrey Powers, the mic is yours.
The way it stands right now is whenever new development comes in, 15% of it is supposed to be affordable housing. If they choose not to build 15%, they get the option to buy out. So if I have a development of 100 units, 15 of them need to be affordable. Currently, Poway will allow you to spend $500 to buy your way out per unit. That money is supposed to go into an affordable housing fund, which Mayor Vaus just said we've defunded, and now when we want to build affordable housing, we have no money. So then the taxpayer is subsidizing it, when the developer should have used their requirements to fund our affordable housing. So we need to reevaluate the $500. They owe us a kitchen and a bath.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Caylin, Frank, the mic is yours.
Thank you. The need for housing is undeniable, but first we have to get the interest in bringing that housing here. An interesting statistic that was done is 40% of the cost of building a house goes to regulation. So that means that we only have 60% of that funding to even build the housing. That's not a very attractive deal for developers. That's why housing costs are going up. It's not because they want to just keep making money. They have to pay to build them. So what I would really want to do is start looking at some of that regulation and what can we do to incentivize and make it attractive to come. Whether it's offering land, like in the Villa de Vida project, which is an affordable housing project, that's how the city is able to be a partner in that project. We have other parcels of land that could be used for those types of things. Rather than necessarily having the funding ourselves to build those, I think we need to look at being a partner and attracting them with things like offering land. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the third question, for all candidates, what do you see as the most important issue facing the next city council? From our mayoral candidates, Brian Edmonston, the mic is yours.
Well, it's, as you've heard here, it's certainly the Poway Road specific plan, which is something that's going to fundamentally, or could fundamentally change Poway. But that's driven by budget pressure, okay? As Mayor Vaus said, the current council's thinking is, okay, we've got a budget problem, we see a systematic deficit because we didn't manage our finances well and we didn't plan ahead. You, the residents, are gonna have to take 1,000 condos on Poway Road so that we can pay for that mismanagement, okay? So that is the number one issue. It's going to be the budget and then how we grow or change ourselves in order to satisfy the money-hungry entity that is City Hall.
Thank you. Emily Johnson, the mic is yours.
I agree that the biggest upcoming issue for our next council will be Poway Road and its development. I think it's been an issue for this current council, and I think it will continue to be an issue through the next few decades if we don't approach and deal with the current budget. Obviously, something has to be done to change it, and I'm not sure where we would start. There's a lot of issues that need to be addressed. I think one of the issues that can be addressed is traffic on Poway Road. Right during construction, we have really high amounts of traffic, and it could be changed by creating more inlays in the sidewalks, such as the one in front of the Sprouts on Poway Road where buses can pull over. We can also allow construction staff to pull over there. But I do think the biggest issue for the upcoming council is going to be Poway Road, and how that is dealt with will be up to the new council.
Thank you. Steve Vaus, the mic is yours.
Number one priority always has to be public safety. We have an outstanding sheriff's department. We need to continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with them, make sure they have the tools that they need to keep us all safe. The number one challenge would be the pension liability. We've got more retired employees on the books right now than we have employees who are working. And the state pension system has had less than stellar results with their investments. So we're being proactive. We've created a Section 115 trust that allows us to put our money in our own pension piggy bank, and I think it's something we can control more and we're going to see better results out of. I think the other opportunity there is to accelerate some of the payments into the pension system to keep our ongoing costs down. But pension liability going forward is going to be a bugaboo. It's been around for a while and we're trying to fix it.
Thank you. Yuri, Bohlen, the mic is yours.
Poway Road. That's the reason why I'm here tonight. If it wasn't for Poway Road, I'd be home watching the wild card game. As of January 1st, 2018, there are 29,373 registered voters in the city of Poway. However, there are 5 council members, 4 city officials, and 11 ad hoc committee members. 20 people. Apparently they have more rights than we do. Thank you.
Thank you. And from our candidates at large, Tony Russo, the mic is yours.
I think the number one priority that we, council, is working together with the people of Poway. It's what the people want, not what the council needs or how they want to do it and go about. If you guys talk and communicate, things get done. If we sit there and constantly at a stalemate and back and forth fighting, all we're doing is spending money. And I've learned this the hard way. Lawyers make more money than any of us in here because it ends up going to that. So the issue, everybody's talking about Poway Road. I mean, that's a given. I mean, that's how we're going to get into Poway from the 15th. So, you know, unless you plan on walking all the way from the 15th, it's a long walk.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Torrey Powers, the mic is yours.
It's going to be 2 things. It's going to be affordable housing because it's going to be mandated by the state. If we don't build it first, they will tell us how to build it. And it will not look like anything we want in Poway. It will be 3 stories, 5 stories. It's going to be mandated if we don't do it. The next thing is our water rates. We have a bunch of issues coming down the pipe with water because we don't really control our water. We have the pure water, which San Diego County will have 1/3, a little bit more diversified, but they're going to be able to start rationing how much per household, per family member. So not only are we not going to have the water or the amounts of water that we would want, even if we had all the money in the world, but the rates are also going to be driven up as well.
Thank you. Caylin Frank, the mic is yours.
Pensions. Pensions are the #1 thing looming over our city right now. We have an unfunded pension liability that is nothing we do will ever reduce that. We have to address it. As was mentioned, these are commitments that we made to employees and former employees. There's nothing that we can do to address that, so we have to look at how can we make it manageable. Things like the independent trust, which gives us more control over the money. That's huge. Continuing to bring in revenue and raise our budget is part of that plan. The other thing that concerns me is the state continuing to take control from local municipalities. Whether it's affordable housing, whether it's how you pay your pensions. Sacramento doesn't know what Poway is, and they don't know what's right for our residents. So one of my passions is continuing to make sure that we have as much local control as we can have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Each of our candidates have prepared in advance a closing statement, 1-minute closing statements. They'll now present those. They'll present it in a sequence that is in front of you, gentlemen and ladies. Emily Johnson, the mic is yours.
I've lived in the same house in Garden Road since I was 8 years old. I had my first kiss in Poway, my first dance in Poway, and my first broken nose. Poway is my home, and I want it to remain my home. I just want to be able to see people like me who are represented. Members of South Poway, who have not had a council member in a bit, be represented. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Vaus, the mic is yours.
When I became mayor 4 years ago, the first letter I got was from a young lady named Audrey, who lived down on Sewell Street in South Poway. She was worried about she and her friends playing in the cul-de-sac and wondered if a stop sign might make them more safe. She was shocked when I showed up at her door a couple days later. Same thing happens when I get calls on my cell phone. I answer and there'll be a pause and somebody said, well, I didn't think I would actually reach you. That's the way I approach the job. I work for you. I'd appreciate having your vote so we can continue to make Poway even more safe. expand our open space and trails even more, keep our roads and infrastructure in top shape, and keep revitalizing Poway Road. Bottom line, I want to be sure that Poway remains the best and keeps getting better.
Thank you. Yuri Bohlen, the mic is yours.
On November 6th, the people of Poway have a choice: real change or politics as usual. If I lose this election, we all lose the Poway that we know and love. And I won't be running again in 4 years because there'll be nothing left to fight for in 3. Together, we will make Poway the city in the country again. God bless all the residents of Poway. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Edmonston, the mic is yours.
Okay, there's a lot to like about Poway, but if you have kids and you travel around and you play sports, or your kids play sports and you watch them, you'll go to a lot of different fields in different parts of this county, and you'll see that Poway's not keeping up, and that our fields are substandard, and that our open spaces are not as good as what's available in other cities. And then when they come to play in your field, you kind of cringe a little bit because you're a little embarrassed, because Poway has a good reputation, but it doesn't look good when they come and visit you. And so instead of here, I wish we were here, instead of talking about squeezing out the last dollar to pay for pensions, we were deciding where to spend that money on this park or that park or this bike trail. But we're not, because the city's been frankly mismanaged. And now we're fighting over scraps when we should be investing our community in one of the best economies in the last 20 years. Yet we're in a budget crisis.
Thank you very much. From our candidates at large, Torrey Powers. The mic is yours.
I'm going to do my darn best to represent you. I know I live in South Poway, and I know that there are a little more issues in South Poway that don't really get voiced or concerned. And I want to bring a little bit more attention to that and work with council and the mayor to solve those issues. Just as much as Stone Ridge up in the north, Medeiros, Espola Road, all these parts of Poway is one cohesive community, and we need to have a large overview of how all these working parts, all these communities, all of our friends and all of our neighbors come together to make the values of Poway and this unique quality of life that we have. So I really appreciate your attention and listening and looking into the candidates. But please vote for people that all have the same vision for Poway and keeping our city in the country.
Caylin Frank, the mic is yours.
Thank you. I just want to share with you some of my priorities. Obviously, number one is public safety. I am endorsed by the Deputy Sheriff's Association because public safety is such a priority, and they recognize that that's so important to the city of Poway and to my own personal beliefs. Supporting our small businesses and local economy, maintaining our infrastructure, responsible growth and revitalization of our commercial centers that will allow us to do things like park and open space enhancements. I want to see responsible use of our taxpayer dollars. I want to see transparency in the use of those taxpayer dollars, and I want to focus on the city's future and our long-term success to ensure that our children and our children's children have a wonderful place to live. Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I would love your consideration on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Russo, the mic is yours.
Poway, it's a city that we can grow our kids. I've got 3 little ones, all under the age of 7. And if I didn't feel safe to live in a community like this, I wouldn't be here. People that are coming into Poway want to feel the same safety. I know we have probably one of the best sheriffs in town, safety. But when you're building a home and you don't have that park for the kids to play in, that's a decision maker. So we have to sit there and focus on getting more of the sustainable parks, interactive parks, things that parents can do with kids. You know, you look at these baseball fields, and I used to love playing baseball fields. Some of them are the worst that I've ever seen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Oh, well, all right, I guess we're done.
We want to thank all of our candidates that are donating parts of their lives to come in and represent us. We know that being a politician is one of the most difficult jobs in the world, because whoever is supporting you and whatever agenda you walk in the door, as soon as you're in the door, you are no longer allowed to represent a small amount of people, because you have to represent everybody and all of your constituents. And it is a tough, difficult job, and we salute all of you. Thank you very much for your time. Around for session 3, where we will have candidates for City Council District 1 and District 3. Please be back in your seats in approximately 5 minutes. Thank you.